Shares under pressure yet again. All eyes on you as you try to execute this ambitious turnaround plan. I want to start with the good news, which is stronger fourth quarter results than expected. What does that signal about demand for PCs and servers now and post-pandemic?
Yeah, overall, the demand is unquestionably strong. Every one of our customers sees that demand as very strong going into 2022. So we'd say the story was demand and supply limitations across the industry. And a lot of our good news in Q4, $1 billion beat, very proud of my team for that, was our ability to respond and our manufacturing teams able to meet those demand signals and adjust. There's just all sorts of what we call match set issues across the industry where I don't have an Ethernet controller, I don't have a power IC, and those issues we were able to adjust and respond, and we saw strength on both client and on our server business. So a great finish to a transformational year, and we've laid the groundwork to really build a tremendous restoration around this most iconic company, and we are well on our way. Everything is on or ahead of the schedules that I laid out when I took the job, and we feel very good about the execution machine that we have now building momentum.
Still, there are big concerns about how much you're spending. On top of the tens of billions of dollars, you've already committed another $20 billion for this manufacturing hub in Ohio. Why is now the right time to do this, and how guaranteed is the return?
Yeah, we feel that this overall industry, expected to double by 2030, from $500 billion today to $1 trillion. Most of that is leading edge technology, which Intel's only one of 3 companies on the planet that's able to build at that scale. So we feel very strong that the demand signals for the long term are going to make these great investments. We also have a period that we had underinvested in capacity, and that's some of the supply limitations. What I wouldn't do to have more fab capacity today. So taking that together, this is exactly the plan that we've laid out. We're going to invest aggressively in our capital build out. And last week's announcements, Emily, of the Silicon Heartland, oh my gosh, the president, the governor, and I'll just tell you, even though it was in Ohio, every one of the Midwest states was so excited about us bringing this new capacity into the heartland of America, the Silicon Valley, the Silicon Forest, the Silicon Desert, and now the Silicon Heartland.
You do seem to have a direct line to the president these days, Pat. And on that note, Ford CEO Jim Farley told me this week that he sees no relief ahead when it comes to the chip crisis. Elon Musk on the Tesla call yesterday said they're going to continue to be chip limited going forward. What was your message to the president? I mean, what more can the government do to bring some of that relief?
Well, we believe, and I've been saying since early last year, that we see the shortage persisting into 23 and maybe even beyond. That said, we do think that it will see incremental improvements as we go through the year, but these are, still challenging times, and lots of these nodes that we have shortages on and different component shortages that we see, they're not going to go away overnight. So we think that we're going to be collectively fighting through these supply challenges as we go through the year. That said, hey, as a IDM, where I manufacture a lot of this myself, part of our strength of our business model is that we have more tools to be able to respond to these shortages than other companies do. And that was a big piece of our Q4 results. Obviously, what we're looking for is get the CHIPS Act done. And I was very happy that I spoke with Speaker Pelosi on Tuesday night, and maybe it was motivated by our conversation, but the House version of the CHIPS Act was posted on a Tuesday night, probably debated next week. The President, Secretary Raimondo, hugely encouraging Congress to finish that work, probably go into reconciliation, and maybe even, in fact, we have an approved bill in the next few weeks. So, the president, very strong on this. Our announcement in Ohio, just a catalyst for that, because we want to go bigger and faster to restore this critical industry on American soil.
Pat, good morning. It's Guy. We spoke to Gina Raimondo yesterday, the Commerce Secretary. I have to say she sounded quite positive about the speed at which things will be moving over the next few days when it comes to the chip bill. Can I just take you back, though, to the point that Emily raised just a moment ago, and that is that you are investing huge amounts of money. The analyst community, the investment community looking at this, certainly saying that this is something you have to do, but what they're wondering, I think, is when do we start to see margins improving as you make this investment? When do we start to see a return coming back to more normal margins? When do you think that point is?
Yeah, we laid out a 5-year picture, Guy, on our last call, where we said, hey, 51 to 53 for a couple of years, and then they're going to start improving as we go to the back half of that 5-year period. And, I guided to 52%, right in the middle of that range for our Q1. So overall, I just say it's happening exactly like we planned it to be. We're seeing our revenue growth rates, these new business areas that I laid out. Everything's happening exactly like we planned it. And yeah, this is a big investment cycle for us as a company. It's the right one for Intel. It's a critical one for the industry and for our nation. And I'm proud of the fact that we're making these investments. And, at some point, the street is just going to see we are doing exactly what we say. We are a say-do company. And this leadership team, we are so fired up because we're seeing everything that we said, process leadership, product leadership, manufacturing capacity. We're doing it on track to deliver exactly what we said we would.
Is there, and I think this is one of the questions I think a lot of people are asking themselves, is there a possibility that you end up spending more than the opportunity to invest in the United States, in the heartland, as you say, is even greater, that Ohio could be even bigger? Do you think that actually the capital investment could be greater than even you're suggesting right now?
Well, when we announced the site, we said, hey, these are our first 2 fabs. We could see it go to 8+ fabs. So the initial $20 billion for 2 fabs. And we said this could be a $100 billion investment over the decade. And part of the site was a big area that we could just grow and expand in over time. And I'll tell you, the New Albany area of Ohio, just perfect. So warm embrace, support by the governor, by the local community, the entire Midwest. My objective, and if the CHIPS Act gets passed, our statement is we're going to go bigger and faster. We're going to invest faster. We're going to ramp that site faster. And my objective would be the Silicon Heartland becomes the largest fabrication facility anywhere on the planet. We hope this gets to be very big. The right thing for us, the right thing for our nation.
Meantime, Pat, it looks like this Arm Nvidia deal isn't going to happen. Curious what you think about that and what it means for the broader industry. I've heard from other chip CEOs who didn't want this deal to happen in the first place that they're pleased.
Yeah, and we've said we don't think it's the right thing for the industry. We don't think it's the right thing for the ARM architecture. So we've consistently been there. I think most of us in the industry sort of came to the decision maybe 6 to 9 months ago this wasn't going to happen, and it's just sort of playing out like we predicted. Clearly, hey, I use ARM in my product line. We are the leaders of the x86 architecture on the planet, and we're increasingly partnering with the RISC-V architecture as well. And we're going to make sure we utilize all of them. We're going to have all 3 of them as part of our foundry strategy going forward. And this is not in any way a surprising outcome to us.